And I don't think the American people, or well, for sure the American people not, but the American, government oligarchs and everything. I'm not sure if they understand that, the perception of the word is not bureaucrats. Like, yeah, you're not there fighting us, but you're sending a lot of military equipments and bombs, and your equipments is killing our people. You're part of that. Maybe not officially on the paper, but I don't need that officially on the paper to understand that. And
yeah,
as you said, things can get out of grip very, very, very easily. Just to conclude with this, yeah, um, we have about 10 minutes, perhaps. Just to conclude, I was thinking about this Kursk operation, and I've been seeing it, and it has all to do with Israeli nukes. I'll get there. I've been thinking about this Kursk operation, and I've been talking to our friends in the WhatsApp or whatever chat, and one of the things that I say is what you repeatedly say today. Stop using reason, stop using logic. There's no logic on that, and some of them are military analysts, and they just don't understand that they just don't see the logic on the operation of Kursk. And of course, there is no military logic on that.
Well, there is a little bit, but it's one desperation. It is. I've been sort of, I'll call it, some parallels with the Battle of Gettysburg. So for your viewers who are not familiar with the history of the American Civil War, in July, end of June of 1863. The South was trying to throw North balance. And so General Robert E. Lee sent his army up from Virginia, crossing north into Maryland. They crossed the Potomac River, marched across Maryland, marched into southern Pennsylvania. And reportedly, their goal was to capture the city of Philadelphia. Well, if they had accomplished that would have been a major blow for Abraham Lincoln. He was already on hopes for having failed to defeat the rebels, the upstarts. But in a similar fashion to today, with respect to Ukraine, the South then was weak economically. It had fewer men that it could call upon. It was suffering casualties that it replaced. As the North had a massive industrial base, had ample supplies of troops, and was able to produce everything they needed to fight war. It's a situation you find Ukraine in and with Russia. So here was Ukraine trying to, they get a couple of different explanations. Either they were trying to force the Russians to redeploy troops from the Donbass region, where the Russians are just beating the living hell out of the Ukrainians. So they're hoping that by having this operation up in Kursk, that the Russians would be forced to kindle their effort in the Donbass. Well, that didn't happen. The Russians had ample reserves; they could flood to the zone. It appears that Russia had some inkling, was aware that this attack was going to come, but may have made the fatal mistake of assuming it wasn't going to be that effective. But nonetheless, knowing that it was coming to pass, they were able to respond quickly to stop it. The other explanation for Ukraine is that they wanted to seize the nuclear power plant that is west of Kursk. I think it's called Kurchatov, and use that as a bargaining to force the Russians to surrender Zaporizhia. The Zaporizhia nuclear power plant is, if you drop down just due south across the Donbass area, that's where Zaporizhia is, about 300 miles to the south. And they thought that they could trade for that. Others said it was to deliver a blow to Putin, embarrass Putin, force him off it, which I really dismiss that as a possibility just because it's so friggin' stupid. Because the last thing you'd want to do is get rid of Putin and replace him with Medvedev. You got some angry people that are, they use weapons that Putin hasn't wanted to use. So, this was a failed effort. And as happened with the South at the Battle of Gettysburg, they called that the high water mark of the Confederacy. And after that, it was decline and headed towards certain defeat. So that's exactly where Ukraine is. This didn't help them militarily at all. Yeah. They lost. They employed some of their best units, and those units suffered an extraordinary number of casualties. They suffered massive losses in terms of tanks, armored vehicles, artillery pieces, air defense systems. So overall, it's not been a good move for Ukraine.
I'm just going to put on the table my, conspiracy theory here. And this is me not using logic, but using, trying to understand what was what everything is all about and the timing, because we see that. And, I myself, when I try to understand what the Ukrainians are doing, I can only think about the United States because, Ukraine has no decision power over this war. It's the United States, the CIA, the MI6, all these three-letter agencies, and then this happened. Well, first of all, they went. You said it is Kurchatov, if I'm not mistaken. If I didn't say it right, if I say it right. Alexander Mercury point out a very interesting thing that all these cities. Kurchatov was the leader of the equivalent of the Manhattan Project for the Soviet Union. So Alexander Mercury point out the fact that everywhere where you have the city, and you have a lot of cities called Kurchatov, you used to have some kind of nuclear facilities in the old Soviet Union. Even Kazakhstan, you have nuclear tests, all that. So, and just by chance over there, you have a nuclear power plant. So perhaps there is, perhaps no. But at the same time, they tried again to bomb the Zaporizhia. You hear me? Okay.
I hear you now.
Bad connectivity happened a second. At the same time, they tried to bomb the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, and there has been a lot of complaining by the Russians that they seem to have overseen a plan of a dirty bomb again. But the difference is that this time we don't hear that chat about Article 5 and all that. Just remember that about a year ago or a year and a half ago, we had the same kind of thing of a dirty bomb. And, the United States sent, detection equipment to see if there was some waste leakage or something like that. This time, nothing about that. But at the same time, I start hearing about Israel dropping the bomb. What my, sick mind tells me is that, hey, these guys cannot become the bad guys. They must make someone bring the nukes, or some type of nuclear device to the table. So then they can say, okay, Russia put the nukes on the table. Now we can use it. It's everything is on the table. What do you think about that, Larry? Is that too crazy?
Well, I don't know if it's too crazy, but it's just look. Ukraine has very few options. What's really interesting is that in this attack on Kursk, Ukrainians supposedly now have the F-16. Where was it? It wasn't being used. So they're not even using their full complement. I think they understand that trying to bring the F-16 that close to Russia or inside Russia really would trigger probably a nuclear response by Russia, because the F-16 is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. And Russia's not going to take any chances on, oh, we'll trust the West not to do it. I think just the so there's what you're seeing here from Zelensky is just desperation move, and when they're in desperation, they're panicked. They're not thinking again. They're not thinking rationally. They're not stepping back and saying, okay, what is going to advance my cause? What's going to enable me and my people to survive? What's going to weaken the Russians? They're just, they're just throwing stuff at the wall saying, hey, will this stick? Will that stick? And they worry about that, like this attack on Kursk has really opened a whole new can of worms that Ukraine's not going to be able to contain.
Yeah. The entire front line seems to be collapsing, but who cares? The important thing is that we dent the Russians. We stick with the bear. What was it? It was Time magazine that put, big head wobbly Zelensky sticking the bear.
Right.